Goblin Slayer is an anime that premiered in the fall of 2018. As the title suggests, it follows a character by the name of Goblin Slayer who goes around slaying goblins. Can't get any more straight to the point than that. A rather tragic one-man army on an endless flight to eliminate every last goblin, in revenge for a tragedy they caused long ago. Isolated and barely communicative, he's been alone for most of his life, but over the course of the series, through a lucky encounter and tales of his strangeness spreading far and wide, he's accompanied by other people, with allies, friends by his side, forming bonds with all sorts of people. Besides a little dark past I alluded to, it sounds by the end of the series it'll leave you rather heartwarmed. And while that may be true, the emotional touching aspects I just referred to might partly just be my own feelings about the show and less what they actually put in, because on repeated rewatches and hindsight, it's become more evident that the series is more focused on just cool factor, shock value, and fan service. Deeply unnecessary, incredibly unnecessary fan service, that it becomes kind of confused about what it even is. Like it might be two shows or even three fighting one another for what it wants to be. Is it this compelling, touching narrative? Is it this Doom knockoff wannabe show? Or is it really just a power fantasy wish fulfillment harem revenge anime? I'm sure it's not the third one. I'm sure it's not the third one. I mean, there's guys in the cast, and surely, like, all the women aren't gonna be falling for what's essentially a mentally sick individual who really needs therapy. Yeah. But in spite of its strange creative decisions and a really unnecessary moment in the first episode, which we will talk about in a moment, the series went on to great success, amassing a surprisingly large following, receiving a movie, and under a different studio, a second season. What? That don't exist? Huh? What else did it get? A lot of collabs, that's what, and I don't know what any of these things are. I'm just gonna be for real here. Besides Grand Summoners, kind of, cause it always shows up and it seems like everyone gets in there. Is that a good game? They got a collab with Don Machi, that really okay fantasy show. If you like harem fantasy slop. I like Bell. I wish the show didn't treat him like garbage for most of its runtime. He deserves a happy ending. I don't want to watch season 4. Season 3 pissed me off at the end. Fucking hell. If you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. It took so long making this that another collab got announced between Goblin Slayer and Brown Dust 2, which people only care about for its Gooner content. You know, the internet is like a big place, and you can find a lot of things on there without having to invest into gacha money. Hatred for gambling aside, of course they excluded Lizard Man and Dwarf, but I mean, bare minimum, they added the Slayer himself, which is more than what a lot of crossovers will do, where they just ignore the male character altogether, so holy fucking shit. Honestly, props. It's even got video games, kind of. The funniest one I'm saving for last, but got one game that's just an idle browser gotcha thing. It's not special. There's other ones, but hey, they're actually bringing out like a solid good game now. It's like a turn-based RPG strategy game. It's got a whole bunch of OCs. I think though it's mostly a lesbian love story between this character and a vampire. That might be my poor interpretation. I watched a Let's Play that was only in Japanese, just so I could get some screen caps of the backgrounds. They look nice. Kudos to the artists. They did a good job. I hope it got paid well. It's also a visual novel, The Story, which I mentioned because the first of these Goblin Slayer games was a reskin of Fruit Ninja. It feels like it's based on Fruit Ninja. And they made original characters for it, which you unlocked through gacha, of course, it's Japan. But it boggles the mind because there's no narrative. So they made all these cool looking OCs that don't get to do anything. They're just PNGs that either increase your stats or give you a power up. Which sucks because, hey, look at that character. She looks cool. She looks like Tatsumaki. And I like Tatsumaki. I wish she wasn't doomed to be in a end of service Fruit Ninja game with no plot or anything. Boo, bring her back. There are many videos out there talking about its commonly discussed faults, especially with that first episode controversy, which, again, we will talk about. But this video is going to be a bit different. If you looked at the thumbnail and title, you can probably recognize I'm going to be talking about something that might be a bit different. Something that I think is really the worst scene of the show. So here's the deal. If you've already seen Goblin Slayer, you can just skip to this timestamp here and just completely cut out all of the necessary context and all of the significant emotional build-up to that moment. But if you don't know everything and kind of want a bit of that, like, well, why should I care about this scene? Then I hope the recap section laid out here kind of helps that. Without further ado, this is the worst scene of Goblin Slayer. What the fuck is going on? The first episode opens up on a newbie adventurer girl, Priestess. FYI, the character names going forward are very simplistic. Just roll with it, it's part of the charm. Who's trying to apply for her first quest. After some initial trouble, she manages to form a party with a warrior, he adorable, fighter, she cute, and wizard. Guys, do I have to say anything? Best girl? This is best girl. I can't wait to see what adventures these four are gonna get up to. Hey, who's this show named about? What was with the intro? Anyway, together the party leave to rescue some captured girls from a group of goblins, which in the setting of this world are often thought of as trash mobs, overlooked for greater opponents. Case in point, the adventurers here cockily head through the goblin territory, naive to the hidden, underhanded talent of their foes. Very soon, through the caves of enemy territory, to their surprise, the party is overwhelmed and taken down one by one. Wizard is stabbed, wounded, laying on the ground, unresponsive. Warrior is... well, he did. Just straight up rip. Shame, I liked... He and the fighter had an implied romance. Wait, that's a non-0% chance I'm completely headcanoning. Anyway, the fighter gets thrown around like Hulk did Loki. And then we get back to the scene that basically... emphasis on basically. I know there's going to be a vocal minority out there saying otherwise, but a scene that basically everyone seems... emphasis on seems to agree is a touch too graphic and tasteless, and I... agree. I gotta rip the mask off and just say it how it is. When I had to record this whole scene for this video, I just felt a pit in my stomach. The whole scene is gross, but I need you to try and hear me for a moment and listen to what I'm saying clearly to understand what I'm about to say. The scene was necessary, but the execution of the scene was totally unnecessary. Show don't tell is a powerful tool that lets us actually see the visual importance of something. If not for showing, then questions and mysteries are usually raised, as we wonder if what some of the characters are actually babbling on about is as they say it is. We as viewers need to understand why these guys are so bad. I mean, the show is named Goblin Slayer. We gotta have fuel of dislike, disdain, hate running through our veins to not simply understand, but sympathize even with the motives of our soon-to-be arriving main character. The issue is the scene does too much. It shows too much. The animation, the direction, fighter is forced upon. Her clothes are torn to nothing, and the whole thing is filmed like at any moment it's gonna turn into a flat-out, non-consensual hentai. The whole thing just feels at odds with itself, like it's simultaneously trying to be a compelling, horrific series of events, while at the same time, it kind of feels like the director, animator, whomever, had one hand below and the other actually on their work table. It's gross. I think for story purposes, it feels almost right to feel firsthand the horrors these things are capable of, what the main hero of the story is trying to prevent. But yeah, it wasn't executed tastefully. I should mention that in the following episode, they do have a straight up just origin story of the Slayer and all this other stuff to make you connect with him on a deeper level, but I think the show is trying to go for that Madoka Magica kind of shocking turn of events, and having that at the forefront is, I think, pretty effective way of getting you to be like, oh shit, whoa, the execution was off, but I kind of respect the attempt. Anyway, for the viewers who wanted a little resolution on what happened after This wizard was put out of her misery by our late arriving star. She was poisoned beforehand from the knife she was hurt by, apparently with no other way out. Sad.
Now drink this antidote! It's the worst thing you'll ever drink.
What about her?
What about her?
She needs help. She was poisoned.
Okay, leave this to the GS.
I'm still alive.
Not for long!
Help my parents.
Rest now, soldier. Goblin Slayer's here. I'm Goblin Slayer, by the way.
We could have saved her.
Could we? Could we? I mean, yeah, we could have.
Very sad. Very sad that he didn't have a spare antidote on hand, but I digress. Fighter is very much alive, albeit traumatized and never to be seen or heard from again, as she's taken away to a temple, along with the others who were captured by the goblins mentioned at the start. And Warrior, well, he's very much dead. But don't feel too bad, because the Slayer wiped out the whole nest, including their newborn offspring. Which I need to make very clear for the unfamiliar viewers. Don't feel bad, they're literally all Satan incarnate. Unless the series retcons something later, which would be yikesy. They're all psychopathic sadists from the millisecond they're born. Alright, time to talk about something that offends me just a little more than I believe very few have actually talked about, assuming you also don't need a story recap for that part since it's a couple episodes into the show and it's what closes an episode out, so... Anyway, I'll go see you when we get there, maybe. Since episode 1, Priestess and Goblin Slayer have gone on a quest off you. In that time, we've gotten to learn as an audience that Goblin Slayer's hatred of goblin kind come from his tragic backstory, where he was hidden away by his older sister during an attack on his home village, and it was very gruesome. He didn't just hear the chaos that surrounded his house, he witnessed the cruelty firsthand dealt to his aforementioned sibling. By the way, she's not around anymore. Since then, the boy's kinda sorta been crashing with his childhood best friend, walking, talking, fan service machine Cowgirl, and her uncle. Since they aren't adventurers, they're not able to be utilized that much in the series. They exist more as a reminder of what Goblin Slayer lost long ago, which would be the normal mundane life of a non-adventurer, which was snatched away from him with all the trauma and desire for revenge. He can try and fit in with Cowgirl and Uncle, but it's just, there's something off. But no matter how different or even incompatible they might be, he still cares for them very deeply and tries to look after them. To further elaborate for a moment on the character of the Slayer, people outside of the Slayer's very small circle of friends or acquaintances, they see him as some kind of weirdo. They don't really think of him as doing much for a noble cause, he's just the town freak. And let's not kid ourselves, he do be a freak. Slayer quite reasonably despises these things. He doesn't care if taking a couple down gives little coin. Dude's got a few screws loose, he's not right in the head, having to witness something at a young age and desire such passionate revenge. It's gotten to the point where he derives enjoyment from eliminating these enemies. He's even gotten to know their ways, methods, strategies, hierarchies, so on and so forth, that most of the world is too ignorant to pick up on. He even keeps score in the form of a kill counter for every slain goblin on an individual mission. But with all that said, he just wants the goblins gone for the sake of preventing more cruelty to the innocent. If what I said sounded interesting, yeah, it is. I kinda wish they explored his twisted psyche with more nuance throughout the season, but I'm sure the next season will do just that. And they won't just give us the absolute bare minimum while using the character as some sort of edgy revenge harem protagonist with a cool aesthetic. What was I going on about? Oh right, yeah, I'm gonna be cutting around a lot to make sure all of this stuff right here is ingrained in your head. Tragic backstory, dude's been fighting for years. Wake up, kill goblins, eat, sleep, maybe sleep a couple days at a time. Didn't mention that part. Anyway, dude's a goblin slaying killer machine, but very much a mortal human at his core. So relatively quickly in the series, Slayer and Priestess are accompanied by 3 new faces. High Elf Archer, She Waifu, super talented with a bow, alternatively not good with alcohol. She nice, but tends to have a lot of beef with our next party member, Shaman Dwarf, he Gilf. He's got a variety of different skills, I'm not gonna go all of them, but they're cool. He casted Sleep Powder one time, he funny. Wacky old guy, beefs with the elf, they always make a fun pair. I think they would make a better pair than this, with the third. Last of the lineup, Lizard Man. Total husbando. Pretty wise, but at the same time has some more adorable, youthful moments that make me wanna pinch him on the cheek and give him head wobs. He can make a bone sword, make bone minion. He loves cheese. He's an oddball, and I cherish him every time when he's used. They're treated mostly equally in terms of importance and focus throughout Goblin Slayer, keyword being mostly. They do some goblin killing together with their efforts may lessen the workload of our poor leader has to deal with. Of course, he's still the professional here when it comes to gobby slaying, but hey, they're all competent and have their own set of skills he can utilize for missions, so the more the merrier. I want to highlight episode 5 for a moment. In this episode, Goblin Slayer is basically off work, as there aren't any quests available to do the only thing his life is kind of worth living for, so he does a bunch of optional side quests, helping out a duo of adventurers that need advice on taking down sewer rats and roaches without spending a whole load of money. And then he goes on to fill the role of a bodyguard to Interchangeable Anime Adventurer Guild Representative number 115. But guys, consider this. She has a crush on the disturbed protagonist who does nothing but kill, kill, kill. Well, she's gotta be S-tier, surely. His assistance to both tasks goes well for the two parties, leaving them with a more positive opinion of him. I mean, the guild girl liked him anyway, but that's besides the point. I wonder how many other people he's helped out of the goodness of his heart. He's the Goblin Slayer. He can just ignore them, go off in a random direction, and hunt for goblins. He didn't need to do this, and yet he did, and I think that's kind of important. He leaves these few people outside of his close circle with a positive impact, something nice to remember him with. If maybe he were gone in the future. Hypothetically, of course. Anyway, the episode closes off with the starting point of a new arc, revealing an invitation letter that takes us to the next episode, to a new locale called Watertown. Guys, I think we went to the wrong Watertown. This kind of looks like With the new locale, we also get introduced to a new character that needs the help of our heroes, but most of all Slayer, Archbishop of the Supreme God Sword Maiden. She has big honkers and a sad backstory, and she gives exposition. I'm moving on. They give the lady a visit, and she expo dumps. Goblins attacked girls, there may be more. Using an expert is for the best, yada yada. Slayer and the gang obtain a map of the waterways below the town's surface, and immediately find themselves painting the rooms red of gobby blood. They even fight a bunch of goblins who are sailing by in a canal. Great scene, which is then followed up by a large alligator joining in on the fun, turning into an even greater scene. Anyway, the wannabe pirate gobbies are dealt with, and the episode closes on a tease of the mastermind behind these smarter-than-average ship-steering goblins. Episode 7, this is the last one we're going to be talking about, and it opens up on Priestess and Sword Maiden taking a bath. We're gonna skip this. Anyway, 6 minutes into the episode later, the Slayer is showing off his harpy slave he bought to aid with their mission. JK, that's one trope this series doesn't do, thankfully. Though he did buy a caged canary he intends to use as a safety measure if goblins were to use poison gases, since canaries are highly sensitive and could detect it sooner. So take that as you will. The Goblin Slaying party exposit lore while they venture through the dark depths beneath Water City. After barging into a room, they find what appears to be a captured woman in need of help. However, a few seconds later, it's revealed via don't think about it writing style with a sudden convenient dramatic fall of the aforementioned woman's hair. All along, it wasn't a captive woman. It was a... By the way, I'm gonna need you to keep those long flowing locks that could slay in the back of your mind, because...
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Our heroes are then locked in the room with the door being barred shut behind them by goblins. Matters only worsening when the room then begins filling up with poisonous gas, alerting the canary, leaving little hope of escape. Or at least that would be the case if Goblin Slayer wasn't one step ahead, because everyone now has face masks, with charcoal and herbs beneath to fend off the effects. If only there was a way to patch up the holes that poison gas was coming through. But it's okay, guys. Goblin Slayer happened to bring the crafting recipe for concrete. How handy. How convenient. So I imagine you've probably been wondering, who is the Goblin Slayer? What's his true name and identity? Just what does he look like beneath the mask? Is he even human? Well, have I got the twist for you, because I'm gonna let you in on a little spoiler. He, Goblin Slayer, the one and only, is none other than... Seiya? As in the paranoid, over-preparing, cautious hero? My god. It all makes perfect sense now. Because that is the only way to excuse the bullshit. Fun fact, Goblin Slayer and cautious hero Seiya share the same Japanese VA. Isn't that neat? So Archer and Shaman work together to patch up the holes. Once that's finished, Slayer informs the team that once the gas dissipates, the goblin foes from outside will charge into the room together, so the Slayer suggests to buy time by blocking the door from their side with a stone coffin. As the enemies start audibly gathering with greater numbers on the other side of the large door, our heroes take position waiting, forming a last stand behind a magical barrier that the priestess creates, keeping themselves and the enemy apart, prepped for their soon infiltration. The goblins break through the door and our heroes who attack at range take down those they can, all the while Priestess does her best to keep the barrier strong in place. And then our heroes face their toughest foe yet, towering above all a goblin champion. The heroes do their best to fight the overwhelming odds in a pretty cool spectacle scene of gore and guts flying everywhere. But this doesn't last forever, as once Goblin Slayer tries to take down the goblin champion, for the first time, we see the Slayer, our Goblin Slayer, injured. No, not just injured, wounded, bleeding. And unlike an earlier fight where his life came to a close end, which I skipped over for the sake of pacing, he doesn't have a bullshit scroll to pull out of his pocket to one-shot the boss with, so he's in serious danger here, as well as the lives of all of his friends. He's coughing blood, a hell of a lot of it at that. And it breaks the one who's been following him for so long, Priestess, who's looked up to him so dearly after his rescue of her. Seeing the sign of what may very well be the end of his mortality, his demise, she loses it. The screams, cries, yells of his party members, no, his friends, echo from room to ear. The fates of those who have accompanied him, journeyed with him, seem like they just might meet a cruel end. And it's then, when Slayer hears words from long ago, finally resurfacing, relighting the fading fire within.
You little pussy. That's what my old man called me. It's like it was my name. And I proved him right by killing all the wrong people. I love you, Henry. And I'll never call you anything but your name, but you gotta decide. Are you gonna lay there, swallow that blood in your mouth? Or are you gonna stand up, spit it out, and go spill theirs?
He gets back up, struggling to stand straight, limping along. The Slayer quietly dispatches a foe as he shambles on over towards a key item, awaiting his usage. Could it be a Deus Ex Machina scroll, left lying around perhaps? No. Maybe a Deus Ex Machina giant alligator he's about to summon on over? No. What then, you may be asking? The answer is hair. You know, the hair, the one that had on them. Guys, I told you. Those of you who forgot already, shame on you. I'm kind of disappointed. It wasn't that long ago now. And to those of you who did remember, look at the light, the hope, the happiness returning to Priestess's eyes. Slayer's alive, yay! Anyway, Slayer chokes out the champion with the hair. Priestess proceeds to go flying across the room. I'm sorry. Listen, I really do love this entire Last Stand, Second Wind scene here, but this will never not be unintentionally funny to me. I mean, damn, poor girl. So yeah, Slayer chokes the ever-living shit out of the champion, and it's amazing. The big guy's swinging his club around, friendly firing left, right, and center, frantically moving around fruitlessly to attempt to get the Goblin Slayer off of him. Though the Slayer is by no means healthy or out of harm's way, coughing blood, and even at one point painfully reversed into a wall. With the ongoing chaos, Slayer's friends manage to turn the tide against their goblin foes. Lizardman assists the weak priestess, while Dwarf and Elf give cover fire, all the while cheekily chattering away with one another. Finally, with the lighter tone, victory is in reach.
Now, Goblin, take a good look!
Barely able to stand, Elf Archer and Dwarf Shaman come to his aid and help him to the severely injured priestess, who Lizardman shares was on the verge of death, that if her wound were any deeper, her fate would have been sealed, and he wouldn't have been able to save her.
I couldn't protect us.
These things happen.
So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to completely stop for a moment here. Whether you're familiar or unfamiliar with the series, what follows upon this shot is a music piece, a song that was inserted here, and I don't think, or at the very least, I don't know if I can play it without it being muted or the full video being outright taken down. Therefore, I'm going to rely on you as a viewer to take a step back, listen to that song, hopefully lyrics on standby to get a taste of what's going on here. The emotional devastation of our damaged fallen hero collapsing and potentially dead where he lays without a word or sign of life beyond his armored shell. The song is called Though Our Paths May Diverge, created by music artist Millie, who also was the artist behind the opening song Rightfully, and a later song towards the end of the series called Within. Both are really good, but they're not necessary for this. Still, I would honestly just recommend you listen to those in your own time, because you might be missing out. Depends what your tastes are. But yeah, now's your time to click on over and search away while giving the song a listen. It's only like 3 minutes-ish, so get on that, please. I'll put a timestamp up for where you proactive peeps can move on forward to once you're back. But for those of you who are too lazy, because I know there's gonna be some of you who can't do the bare minimum, which, let me tell you, I am very disappointed, highly ashamed. I don't know why, I expected better, viewer. Nevertheless, here are the lyrics without the emotionally powerful vocal delivery by Millie and the instrumental behind it. If you think I'm gonna sing these out line by line, one, I'd butcher it. Two, you really are disappointed. I mean, come on. It's one thing to now be able to do a little search and a little song listen. Hell, the speed up function is there for all you low attention span viewers, but lacking the basic fundamental ability of reading literacy. Anyway, right away, if you haven't changed your mind on finding the song, I'll give you a few seconds. Feel free to pause. Okay, let's get on with the video proper. While the amazing song Though Our Paths May Diverge begins to play, the camera pulls from Goblin Slayer, raising slowly, almost like it could be representative of his soul leaving his body, or possibly a view of how small and insignificant he is in this world of greater heroes. Perhaps maybe it's a view from someone of a higher power. We're cutting to the bird. Remember the bird? Well, it's symbolism that, like the bird in the cage, Slayer, it's like he's, we're now looking from the bird's eye, or rather the reflection of the eye. We're cutting around quite a bit, I think. This could mean, I don't know. I've got nothing. Maybe they're gonna cut to another shot now? Now? And now? Nope. The bird is just blinking. We're still going. Why is this still... Wait, you're shitting me. They wasted that emotional music piece on a repeating GIF? Yeah, this is the scene in question this video has been leading up to. This is the biggest thing from Goblin Slayer that's gotten me so tilted for the past 6 years. And some of you may be wondering, why? Well, I'll try and do my best to explain by firstly comparing it to what a lot of you may be wondering, or are even arguing in opposition of, the scene from episode 1. You know, that one. Is actually worse, and to that I have to say, no? Let me say, it is not a good scene. The scene is bad, very distasteful, could have been executed somehow in a more respectful fashion. However, let's compare that scene to this. What do both of these provide? That scene there exists very blatantly to show us, yeah, these goblins, they're not just evil. They're psychotic monsters that deserve to go. No ifs and or buts. Bring on the Goblin Slayer's wrath, communicated via a lot of gross imagery. What does this scene provide us? The answer is nothing. We kind of just stare at what's essentially a screenshot with a semi-transparent GIF plastered over it for nearly 1 minute and 30 seconds, wasting a tremendously beautiful piece of music for one of the laziest amounts of effort that I've seen placed in an individual scene of anime. There was genuinely zero effort placed here. Again, it's practically a screenshot under that blinking eye. You don't see Slayer's friends frantically trying to shake him back awake, or pull his armor off to try and resuscitate him, or something, anything. They're just there, motionless, no words uttered for a whole minute and more. I know people can be frozen with shock, but hypothetically, and me being generously, if that was the intent, guys, I think they went a teensy tiny massive bit overboard. And then once the music fades out, we get to hear the sounds of birds chirping. How riveting, truly. Now, something you may or may not have seen or heard about is that this scene, with this insert song playing over, was potentially supposed to be the end credits instead of the ED, just for this episode. Thanks to this YouTube video here, we can see what it could have looked like, assuming this is genuine. I'm not precisely sure why, but however, the episode got sent out across the globe far and wide from the studio, and somehow they left the scrolling text out of the looping scene and left the credits for the ED anyway, extending the episode by over a minute more than what the norm 24-minute total is. Whoops. So that's why the scene blows. It was possibly maybe supposed to be a screensaver for the credits to scroll down. We can end the discussion here. That's a wrap, right? I'm sorry, did you miss the part where I said, we kind of just stare at what's essentially a screenshot with a semi-transparent GIF plastered over it for nearly a minute and 30 seconds, wasting a tremendously beautiful piece of music. Why bird? Because it was a thing there in the scene? Listen and please let me cook here for a moment. What if the visual medium of animation was used to elevate the song? Huh? What? I know, daring, but let me continue. What if there were images, scenes, perhaps old, new, even adding power to the words of the lyrics? What? I know, right? Such a big brain idea, it only took staring at the obsolete slop before me to notice, hey, this is kind of shit, where's literally anything? Credits be damned, we can work around them. Plenty of anime have scenes played beneath their credits. It's far from a new concept. So White Fox, what gives? Why didn't you do anything? Was though our paths may diverge, simply not gripping enough for your inspiration to cook anything tasty that day? Was Millie's truly amazing talent simply not worth your collective effort? Shame. For shame. Alright, let me preface that by no means do I think this will be great, but I'm gonna try and do the bare minimum. Oh wait, that's what the bare minimum looks like. Okay, I'm gonna try and do slightly above the bare minimum and try and match some visuals from throughout the run of Goblin Slayer that I think correspond well enough to the song's lyrics. Naturally, it would be better if a studio with a team of artists and animators were to put in the collective effort to create specific shots for a hypothetical scene to play along with the instrumental and vocals of the song. But I digress. Here's my attempt at giving this scene a smidgen of justice that I honestly think it deserves. Sword Art Online? Well, we have SAO Bridge now, so we don't need the original. Huh? Where are we going? Notes to self. When prompted by a goblin on your opinion of popular media, don't tell them anything but the most cold possible take imaginable. Otherwise, they'll lead you down a dark corridor and push you into the void. Or what I think is the void, because I can't find the way out of it. And there's no Wi-Fi signal. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this mess, but hey, I got bigger problems. I got a video to make. So, where were we? Firstly, I wanted to say, if it wasn't evident, I used a flashing effect to simulate the idea of Slayer's life flashing before his eyes in a way. Figured that was a cool idea. Anyway, lyric and visual talk, let's go. Sleep, my child. Simplistically, our hero has drawn what may very well be his final breath. Thus, he's probably resting under there. But it's the next line I think that's a tad bit more interesting. They don't know your walls. They could mean a lot of people. I interpret this as the villagers, and what better way to visualize the wars many don't know about since they're more interested in talking about the big heroes and the cinematic big bad kings of evil are the little goblin threats people overlook. Though it's them who you're fighting for is an extension of what I mentioned, them again could be the villagers and potentially, as I used here, rookie adventurers, who in a better world, if Slayer rid the world of goblins, they'd never have to face against that type of cruel evil. Praise and sing my child. I struggled coming up with a visual for this, but I felt like I had to incorporate the imagery of the bird in there somewhere, like an eye from God, perhaps? I don't know. A better man would have cooked something here already. Commenter, feel free to give your input if you have one idea. Please share, I'm all ears. However, blame the world no more. This one I think just makes sense for it to be the horrific imagery he had to bear witness to. Blame the world no more. I guess Slayer's gone now, and silver lining. He's done all he can, and now he can go visit the family and neighbors he'd lost up in heaven. Always give meaning to your effort. Kinda hard to interpret with, Slayer presumably gone now. These are the exact lyrics. Of course, looking through it with a very specific lens, I mean maybe there's a translation issue with the original vocals, maybe it's just me. Anyway, I interpret this as Slayer, basically the meaning behind all of his doing. The goblin slaying, the exterminating, the intricate, determined fuel he spends, even to multiple ongoing late nights to finish each quest he starts and go above and beyond in the process, all to avoid situations like these where poor folks have to unknowingly face these living horrors. And maybe they die. Maybe they die inside, assuming they aren't one of the lucky ones to escape altogether, but Priestess is a special case here. We all aim for happiness. I was stumped on what to use here, tied between villages, bootleg Whitney, one of the townspeople NPCs, but I felt like Slayer's party just sitting around with him enjoying a meal together, having a good old time, is more touching as we've generally spent more time with them thus far, and also to make the following scene, the following shot, all the more dramatic, as those happy times are contrasted with the tragedy that is this presumed death. Unlike his soul raising up to heaven, as the final lyrics, though our paths may diverge, are spoken, the light consumes everything. And to end things off, totally unnecessary might I add, but I like the idea of, as we hear the sounds of birds chirping, we get to see a glimpse of life back home. Specifically, Whitney from Wish, kinda looking out to the horizon like, I wonder when my old buddy's coming back home. And in this moment, we feel in our hearts, our boy is not coming home, making for an ever more tragic final shot that closes the episode. With all of this, maybe you could even treat this episode like a gnarly, fucked up bad ending. Naturally, he'll be okay in the next episode. He's the main character the series is named after. But I don't know, this just feels ever so conclusive? In a sense, it kinda reminds me of another show that came out rather recently, where you can achieve the good ending by dropping it just before the opening plays. And I was content with that. Never looked back since. But please don't misconstrue what I'm saying here is I like the idea of our main character here just kicking the bucket. I'm just saying I like the idea of having a what if hypothetical, Okay, let's see here. I don't want people taking my moments of complaining throughout to take me in bad faith that I actually want to see the main character die out of spite. That's not what's going on here. Without continuing, I would have missed out on a comical conversation between Slayer and Priestess, A confession of vulnerability from our once seemed invincible hero. Excellent uses of teamwork throughout following battles. Yet another memorable quarrel between Dwarf and Elf, or should I say quarrels? We even have Lizard Man being so excited to try ice cream. And the rest of the group too. I wish we got to see the follow-up of that. I do like the series, in spite of its all-over-the-place subject matter and often shallow characters, but it's got charms with its foul, unsightly, disrespectful elements. Okay, shut up me, let's see. Oh, of course, the end of the series. Man, I love the townspeople of different supporting side and minor character adventurers coming together to save the day. Everyone works together to overcome the overwhelming odds threatening the home of the Slayer and all else. It's awesome. I love that stuff. I like Goblin Slayer. Great shame it's only 1 season long, but you know, sometimes that's a good thing, because you don't know if there's a monkey's paw involved, or a catch awaiting you. A catch that might permanently alter the way you see, think, and feel about the media you once enjoyed. Though our paths may diverge, if you viewer feel like you have other ideas for this whole little credit sequence I threw together, feel free to share your creativity down below in the comment section. Maybe you'll agree with my interpretations, or maybe you'll write something down there even I think is better. With everything said, I genuinely feel so happy that I can move on from my frustration to some degree with this. I've been waiting a long time for this, genuinely. I think the Slayer's second wind is such a cool moment in the midst of this intense battle, and having the Slayer's worry and fall be followed up by such a pitiful lack of creative effort by the animation studio just forever left me annoyed. A really high high, immediately followed up by an incredibly low low. A wasted song, wasted time, and a waste of a potentially great tear-jerking moment. It's one of my favorite anime scenes. I don't have a list per se, but it continues to live in my head rent-free. While I myself have skipped the insert song scene on subsequent rewatches, when I watched Goblin Slayer on my 4th rewatch with a friend who had never seen it before, when we reached this moment, after 10, maybe 15 seconds, he just clicked onto the next episode without a care to listen to the song even. I guess if White Fox didn't give a shit to put anything in for the viewer to look at the screen at for the next minute and so on, why should he give a shit to dawdle around staring at their lack of care? And though it hurt me in the moment to bear witness to, I couldn't blame his decision, and I still don't. I hope you can fully understand now why I made this, why I earnestly believe this is worse than that scene from episode 1. It achieves nothing, wastes so much potential, comes across disrespectful to both the audience's time and its associated music artist. While the former is gross for its own variety of reasons, it has purpose and meaning with its visible flaws, but this is but a lazy, thrown together, hollow slapdash work, hurting both its own preceding material and to the meta side of the equation. Again, I think this is the worst scene in Goblin Slayer. Do you agree? Disagree? Or do you think there's something else in this singular and only singular season of anime that might be worse than both? Let me know down below. And now for the outro. Well, if you thought I couldn't get any pettier than talking about half an anime episode, then this surely had to have surprised you. I wonder if I'll ever be able to outdo this. Not that I want to, but it does make me wonder. Once again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or comment with your thoughts down below. I've been Derpiter. Until next time, whether it be day or night time for you, have a good one. Wait, I've got it. My most petty complaint I'll ever utter on this channel. Not half an episode, not over a minute of a looping gif, one single word. That's it. Yes! Okay, I need to preface this. No disrespect to the dubs. They do a brilliant job. There's so many great dubs out there I love and enjoy. Not to mention talented voice actors who get way too much hate for simply doing their passion job. Anyway, but besides the point. Whoever wrote the script or did the translating job for the dub, whatever, whoever, I don't know. How dare you change the Slayer's line from to
Shit.
Bro sounds less frustrated about his former teacher dissing his competency, and instead just mildly bothered about the current affairs he's in. Changing bullshit to shit was a pretty doo-doo choice. I've always been annoyed about this, but I hope you're doing well, mystery individual who hurt this moment, and I hope you've done better since this anime finished. So no hard feelings? And that should be enough for the video. With all that audio recorded, I ought to get out of here. Unfortunately, I have no idea how I'm gonna do that. If only I had a contrived X mark and a bullshit scroll to achieve teleportation or something asinine to get me back home. Maybe if I pray, one of my waifus will just appear before me and get me out of here? I don't know. It's worth a shot, I guess. Dear nondescript God, I thought this was a funny bit to film on location, but in hindsight it was not worth the risk I'm currently faced with. If you're listening, please deliver me my... Whoa.
Sup?
Oh my gosh, it's legally distinct Tatsumaki!